Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. To introduce Mayor Lee, please welcome San Francisco resident Nicole Banks.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Bayview. This is where I grew up, where I work, where I live, and where I'm raising my 4 children as a single mom. My name is Nicole Banks, and I am a proud San Francisco native. It's such an honor to be here today with all of these dignitaries and city leaders, and of course, our mayor, Ed Lee. We're here at the San Francisco Wholesale, produce market, a place to buy healthy, delicious food. I remember coming here shopping with my grandmother as a child. The produce market means a lot to this neighborhood because it's a place where you can get a good job. I know that's what my family worries about, whether we can stay and afford to live here in San Francisco, and that takes a good job. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I grew up on Patrol Hill Public Housing, very close to where we are today. Just as my young children do today, I attended San Francisco Public Schools. I went to City College, transferred to San Francisco State University. I received a bachelor's degree in psychology, and I just completed graduate school and received a master's degree in marriage and family therapy counseling. However, I was also unemployed for nearly 4 years with 4 small children to take care of. One day I asked God to open a window, a door, a slit, something for me. And I went to the mailbox the very next day, and there was a letter from Arribas Juntos inviting me to come and get job training. I jumped at the chance, and I'll never look back. I thought it would be easy to find a job. I had a degree, but I learned, in addition to being a go-getter, you also sometimes need a little help. I eventually found a job with the Center for Youth Wellness, so I know firsthand that it truly does take a village. And it's why I am so grateful to work for such a compassionate organization, and why I love and enjoy going to work every day. Some people say San Francisco is the land of plenty. They give jobs to the jobless, homes to the homeless, and food to the foodless. And it's where you can get a good education. But you need to put your best foot forward to accomplish your dreams and goals. That's what I had to do. Mayor Lee is an inspiration to many people. He is making sure we have strong schools, strong neighborhoods, and he is making sure San Francisco is a city where we can all call home. As a mom, education is at the top of my list of things that I want our mayor to focus on. I am thankful that his work with our school district is making it so my kids get a great education right here in our San Francisco public schools. And I've heard that Mayor Lee is focused on housing. That's something I know a little something about. Through the Mayor's Office of Housing, I was able to get an affordable apartment for me and my family in San Francisco, close to the neighborhood where I grew up. Being able to stay in the city I was born and raised in means the world to me. And I am looking forward to raising my children here in my own community. Because of San Francisco's investment in me and the support of my community, including my family, my friends, and my neighbors, I stand here today, a proud, successful mother of four, standing here to introduce our mayor. It truly takes a village. I'm proud to introduce Mayor Lee, who is making sure all our residents succeed by providing the educational opportunities, the housing opportunities, and so much more for not just my family, but for all of our San Francisco families. Now, without further ado, the head of our village we call San Francisco, please welcome Mayor Lee.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, and thank you, Nicole. How about another hand for Nicole Banks? Nicole, I'm so grateful for that introduction. I'm so proud of you and for our city. Your story just echoes what we're talking about this morning, so many of the themes that I'm about to discuss. And your own journey is an inspiration to me and to all of us. Thank you very much. I'm so very honored to have two of my predecessors here today, two tremendous leaders for our city and state, Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom and Mayor Willie Brown. Gavin, Willie, thank you for your leadership, your friendship, your counsel, and for your support all these years. So much of our city's success today is built upon the foundation that you created. Thank you for joining us this morning. And special greetings to our board president, our new board president, London Breed. And to Supervisor Malia Cohen, whose district we are in this morning. Thank you, Supervisor. And of course, greetings to all of the honorable members of the Board of Supervisors, elected officials, as well as to the many city commissioners, department heads, and honored guests. I know it's early, so a big thanks to J&V Catering for caffeinating all of us this morning. And finally, a very special thanks to the Wholesale Produce Market for welcoming us this morning to this wonderful new facility that'll soon be a hub for good local jobs and great local produce with incoming tenants like Good Eggs and Molly Stone's. And we all know the importance of bringing fresh and healthy food to our neighborhoods. Thank you, Supervisor Malia Cohen, and thank you, Supervisor Eric Marr, who have been working on these issues for years. And Anita, look, I've got vegetables and fruit right next to me. Well, my fellow San Franciscans, a year ago, we gathered not too far from here at the reborn Hunters Point shipyard to celebrate the construction of new middle-class homes for our families in our city. And I set forth an ambitious and inclusive vision for 2014, a vision that stayed the course on job creation and fiscal responsibility, the same course that led us out of the Great Depression with its double-digit unemployment, cuts to public services, and endless budget red ink. And we set forth a course to confront the growing affordability crisis facing our city, directly and from every angle, on income inequality, transportation, education, and most importantly, housing. In 2014, working with you, members of the Board of Supervisors, and the entire community of our city, I'm very proud of the progress that we made on that path together. So to you and to the voters of San Francisco, I say thank you. Let me start with minimum wage. Some of you know I grew up washing dishes in my father's restaurant, so I know firsthand how hardworking families struggle to get by. Well, in November, we passed Proposition J, and on May 1st of this year, International Workers' Day, appropriately enough, working San Franciscans will be getting a raise to $15 an hour by 2018, the highest minimum wage in America. And mark my words, the rest of the nation will now follow our lead. Thank you, Supervisor Jane Kim. Thank you to Mike Casey and our friends in labor. Thank you all. And to the nonprofit and business communities for coming together to pass Prop J, thank all of you. We also passed Proposition A, the $500 million transportation bond to invest in our roads, bike lanes, pedestrian safety, and public transit. Thank you, Supervisor Katie Tang and Supervisor Scott Wiener, for your continued leadership to improve our city's roads and transportation systems. On education, we took unprecedented steps to secure and increase investments in our San Francisco's children and families. Yes, we passed Prop C, reauthorization of our Children's Fund and Public Education Enrichment Fund. Thank you, Supervisors Jane Kim, Norman Yee, John Avalos, Superintendent Carranza, Hydra Mendoza, and the entire Board of Education, and to my good friend Phil Halpern, as well as a coalition of organizations that carried us to overwhelming public support. And on the number one priority for our city today, housing, the voters overwhelmingly backed Proposition K and endorsed our ambitious plan to build and rehabilitate 30,000 homes by 2020, with at least a third available at below market rates and more than half affordable to our city's struggling middle class. And in just 1 year, we've already made measurable and dramatic progress towards these housing goals, building and rehabilitating 4,000 new homes in our city. Friends, that's double the housing we built in 2013. It's triple what we did in 2012. And we'll do even better in the coming year. And we took bold steps to protect renters. We funded $13.2 million in this year's budget to help tenants prevent and fight eviction. And because of our efforts with the board and with tenant advocates and organizations, Ellis Act eviction petitions in San Francisco were down 58% last year. Well, we've got more to do, friends, and together we're starting to make progress on housing. And as long as I'm mayor, we'll never take our eye off the ball when it comes to creating good jobs for our people. Jobs in healthcare, technology, food service, and local manufacturing, like those created right here at the new Wholesale produce market, or just up on the street in the evolving development of Pier 70. Well, just 4 years ago, the need to attract jobs and investment in our city and to kickstart the economy was very urgent. We had a crisis in joblessness. Well, unemployment today is down to 4.4% from the 9.4% when I first took office. And in San Francisco, did you know that we created 76,400 jobs since 2011, the top performing city in the nation for job growth? Well, you see, there is no greater income gap than the one between those that have a job and those that don't. And I'm very proud that as a result of our policies, people in San Francisco are working again, economic opportunity is back, and we've given people a paycheck to support themselves and their families. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to you, thanks to the people of this great city, the city, state, our state of the city is strong and getting stronger. It is a unique moment in our history. The city is buzzing with energy and pride, not just because the Warriors have the best record in the NBA, or it's not just because the Giants are world champions again and again and again. You know, the ideas that conceived in incubators and laboratories from Mission Bay to the Bayview, from South of Market to Central Market, have spurred unprecedented economic opportunity and prosperity in our city. Our neighborhoods bustle again with young families and thriving small businesses. Our skylines transforms with new residential and commercial towers. 5 new hospitals are under construction today, soon to be joined by the new Central Subway, an expanded Moscone Center, a new arena for the Golden State Warriors, a new Southeast wastewater treatment plant, and new neighborhoods along the central waterfront for thousands of residents and employing thousands of construction workers. Well, thank you to the hardworking men and women of the building trades and construction trades, the laborers, the plumbers, operating engineers, machinists, teamsters, and electric workers, all of the trades, for being our partners in rebuilding our city. Thank you. My friends, these are times to be proud of our city and our people. These are times to approach our future with confidence and optimism. And yet, we must acknowledge too many of our residents have not yet fully shared in the growing success of our city. For too many young families and longtime residents alike, I understand these times of prosperity are also times of anxiety. They're worried about affording to stay here. They're worried about their children's ability to raise a family here. They're worried about the character of San Francisco. Well, friends, this is San Francisco, and as long as I'm mayor, we won't leave anyone behind. Turning that anxiety into optimism, turning that despair into hope, that's my job. It's why I get up every day and go to work as your mayor. And so I pledge to you that this year, I'll keep working night and day to see that our rising prosperity benefits every San Francisco resident, to make sure that San Francisco remains a city where everyone belongs. And I ask you to join me. Today, I set forth a course for this year and for the future, a path forward that builds on the foundation of a strong economy and a fiscal prudence that has led us to this very point, a path that continues to address relentlessly with all my energy, my focus, and the resources of this city, our housing and affordability crisis. I am directing my administration through my new Affordability Directives to focus our resources and our efforts to confront these challenges head on. In a matter of moments, the Affordability Directives will be on my published website, so please go to sfmayor.org/sharedprosperity, which outlines how we'll tackle these issues. Folks, this is my work plan. The values and priorities that inform it are why I entered public service in the first place, advocating for tenant and immigrant rights in Chinatown. Through these 5 affordability directives, we can, together, ensure that San Francisco remains a city where everyone belongs. Housing, education, transportation, women's empowerment, fighting poverty. So let's start with the most pressing and the most important. That's housing. We may be setting records for our new housing construction, but we must still work to stabilize people in their homes, in their neighborhoods, and prevent displacement because of speculative evictions. Well, we'll accomplish this through expanded eviction defense support and programs to help tenants buy their own rent-controlled buildings. We all know home ownership is out of reach for too many San Franciscans. So starting this year and over the next 10 years, we will increase by $100 million the down payment assistance program, helping 1,500 families buy a first home in San Francisco. And this is after our employee pension system votes on this. So thank you for your early leadership on this, Supervisor Malia Cohen, and to the Retirement Board as well. And my top state legislative priority, once again, is to partner with Senator Leno and now Assemblyman David Chu to reform the Ellis Act in Sacramento and to end speculator evictions in our city. You know, in 2012, we worked together to put forward the Housing Trust Fund, $1.3 billion for new affordable housing. That was then unprecedented, and I thank you to the large coalition that supported that measure. But we need to do more to help our middle class and our poorest residents who are trapped in dilapidated public housing. So let's come together again this November's ballot and put forward a general obligation bond measure to help fund new and rehabilitated housing for working families and our poorest residents without raising property taxes on homeowners in our city. But as you know, government can't solve the housing crisis alone, and the private and philanthropic sectors must help us confront this too. So this year, I will propose a new investment fund. Let's call it an accelerator fund for housing that attracts private and philanthropic dollars for middle-class housing, affordable housing, and a rebuild of our public housing sites, alongside the bonds and other matching public funds. After too many decades of underbuilding and too many years of neglect on housing, we made some good progress in 2014, but there's much more to do. And I look forward to working with the members of the Board of Supervisors, with the entire spectrum of housing advocates and leaders to succeed with these important measures and housing priorities this year. I also want to ensure families stay in San Francisco, and they need more than housing. They need high-quality education for their children. We need to continue to invest in education, which is my second directive. And thanks to our hard work and the voters' approval of Proposition C, this year we'll invest the funds necessary to finally clear the wait list for all 4-year-olds who need preschool. Members of the Board of Supervisors, Superintendent Richard Carranza, members of the Board of Education, let's do this together. Let's clear that wait list. Let's add the slots for more than 4,000 families over the next 5 years. And this will allow San Francisco to finally say, we do have universal preschool for all 4-year-olds, the best in the nation. But let's not stop there. Let's work together to create universal summer programming and universal after school for all of our kindergarten through 8th grade students, regardless of income. More time in school and activities are better for kids and better for parents. Well, it's also why we fought so hard to save City College. An effort that resulted in yesterday's excellent news that it'll stay open for at least 2 years while we continue to work with the new Board of Trustees on the path to reform. Thank you, Senator Leno, Chancellor Bright Harris, Chancellor Art Tyler, and City Attorney Dennis Herrera. Thank you. Transportation is my third directive. And because of the passage of last year's $500 million transportation bond, we'll make our streets safer for pedestrians and bikers, and make sure that our muni system is safer and more reliable. We'll accelerate our commitment to Vision Zero to eliminate traffic fatalities and severe injuries for all road users, whether you walk, bike, drive, or ride the bus. And in addition to these bond investments, we'll keep working to make Muni more reliable. Earlier this week, I announced 40 new light rail vehicles for Muni, increasing the fleet to 215 cars, the most in our city's history. And finally, a transportation system that's more reliable must also be maintained affordable. Last year, thanks to Google and the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, we funded free Muni for low-income young people in our city for 2 years. Well, next week, I call upon our Metropolitan Transportation Authority to expand free Muni to low-income seniors and people with disabilities. And today, I'll also call on the private sector to step up to help fund this vital service for our city's most vulnerable low-income residents. My fourth Affordability Directive aims to ensure women receive the opportunities they have worked for and deserved, but are too often denied. This is personal to me. I've had strong and successful women around me my entire life. In my own family, my mother, my sisters, my wife Anita, my daughters Tanya and Brianna remind me every day I have a personal responsibility to keep San Francisco at the forefront of gender equity and equality. San Francisco has elected inspiring national leaders, mentors to me like Senator Dianne Feinstein and Leader Nancy Pelosi, Congresswoman Jackie Speier, Attorney General Kamala Harris, State Controller Betty Yee, and Board of Equalization member Fiona Ma. Locally, we have strong women role models, President London Breed, Assessor Recorder Carmen Chu, Supervisors Jane Kim, Katie Tang, Malia Cohen, and our newest supervisor from District 3, Julie Christensen. And our newest partner from just across the bay, Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. Libby, thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. I look forward to working with you for the entire Bay Area. And now, for the first time ever, a female editor-in-chief for the San Francisco Chronicle, Audrey Cooper. Well, if we're going to meet the challenges of gender equality for the next generation, we need workplace policies that empower women. In San Francisco, we've made great progress. Half of our city's workforce are women, and they equal men in our management and professional careers. Outstanding women run our major city departments, like our city administrator, our fire chief, our public health director. But we can and we must do better in areas like information technology, public safety, and skilled crafts. Great jobs with great salaries, but which are not traditionally thought of as women's careers. Well, this year, at my direction, my administration will identify and eliminate barriers that prevent women from achieving equity in city jobs with good salaries and good career paths. The public sector must lead the way. And today, I call upon our city's private sector companies to do the same, especially our technology sector, where gender parity and diversity are still lacking profoundly. San Francisco leads the nation on family-friendly policies with guaranteed paid leave, health insurance, and retirement benefits to working parents. And in 2014, I was proud to sign then-President Chu's legislation establishing the right of all employees to request family-friendly work arrangements. Women shouldn't have to choose between a great career and having a family. And when they go home, no woman should ever live in fear of violence. And as your mayor, I've been proud to stand strongly against domestic violence and human trafficking wherever it occurs and say no more, nada más. Our district attorney, George Gascon, has done a great job in this, so thank you, DA Gascon. And whether at work or at home, I believe there's more we can do to maintain our national leadership on policies for women. So this year, with Mayor Schaaf, we'll convene a Bay Area Women's Empowerment and Opportunity Summit to propose legislation as well as public and private sector initiatives to improve economic and social opportunities for women in our city and our region. As a perfect example, I know Supervisor Katie Tang is leading a conversation on STEM education for young girls in San Francisco. And I look forward to supporting her effort, and I hope you'll join me in that summit. My fifth and final directive for this year is the one that I've been working on my entire adult life, breaking the crippling cycle that leaves too many people on our streets and traps too many of our people in poverty. Let me be the first to say, despite helping thousands of people into supportive housing and services these past 4 years, it's shameful how many people still sleep on our streets. We have to do more and better. And just this week, we announced we are reopening the Housing Authority wait list to provide apartments for numbers of homeless families. Last year, we finally passed Laura's Law, and thank you, Supervisor Mark Farrell, for your wonderful leadership on this. Now, this year, in addition to implementing Laura's Law for the most severely mentally ill, we'll bring a stepped-up commitment on homelessness with 500 new supportive housing units and a focus on mobile medicine for those living on our streets. We'll also be opening up a first-of-its-kind navigation center to better move people off the streets and into housing and services. And answering the challenge from President Obama, I want San Francisco to be the first city in California to end chronic homelessness for veterans. And working with Supervisor David Campos and Supervisor Scott Wiener, we will fully fund a special shelter for our LGBT homeless population. But friends, ending poverty in our city just doesn't mean spending more money. We already make record investments in job training and our social safety net, and that won't change. But it's not progress if we keep people trapped in public housing, trapped in joblessness, trapped in despair. We know the outcome of that, and we saw a terrible example of that just last weekend with the tragic murder of 4 young men. No, my friends, a real commitment to ending poverty means interrupting the transfer from parent to child, from generation to generation. It means better outcomes and giving people pathways up and out to a better life for themselves and their family. Nicole Banks embodies what I'm talking about. But we must make Nicole's story the norm, not the exception. We know who the most vulnerable families and individuals are. We know them. We already work with them or provide them services one way or the other. And so this year, we'll launch what I'm calling Project 500, a laser-like focus on intensive resources, wraparound services, and case management across city departments, nonprofit providers, for at least 500 of our most at-risk families, giving them meaningful pathways up and out of poverty and disrupting its intergenerational transfer. My fellow San Franciscans, there's no greater moral imperative for our city than to invest today's prosperity to break the cycle of poverty for too many of our fellow San Franciscans. This is what calls me to public service as mayor. And in this time of plenty, this must also call our partners in the private sector to service too. Government can't do it alone. In the past 2 years, we've seen great examples of successful companies and business leaders step forward and give back to our city in time, in money, volunteers to healthcare, arts, education, housing, and homelessness. People like Mark and Lynn Benioff from Salesforce, Lloyd Dean from Dignity Health, Daniel Laurie from Tipping Point, the Fisher family, Charles Schwab, Ron Conway of SF City, Lorene Powell Jobs, Mimi Haas, and so many others. And great companies like Google and Wells Fargo and The Gap, Bernard Tyson and Kaiser Permanente, and so many more. These people and companies demonstrate the meaning of shared prosperity. They understand their responsibility to make San Francisco remain a city where everyone belongs. So to them, I say, thank you. You set the example. You set the example for others to follow, and I know they will. I think this is only just the beginning of a new era of civic-minded local companies and philanthropy. Well, these affordability directives will be available for the city to see at sfmayor.org/shared prosperity. This is your government's work plan, and I expect to be held accountable. My fellow San Franciscans, now more than ever, we must work to ensure that everyone shares in the city's prosperity, that this city is where everyone belongs. The change we see, exciting to many and scary to some, can be good as long as we manage it responsibly and stay true to our values: generosity, inclusiveness, and hope. From our earliest days, these values have defined San Francisco. They attracted many of us here in the first place, including me. They make San Francisco a place where everything is possible, no matter who you are. A place where a little girl growing up in public housing at Plaza East named London Breed can grow up to be the president of the Board of Supervisors. A place where tenacity and persistence can propel an activist named Julie Christensen, who fought for her own neighborhood from outside City Hall, can now fight for her district from within, marshaling support and resources to get it done. This is a place where a 20-something law student graduate named Ed Lee can protest and march and generally cause a ruckus for low-income tenants and immigrants, and one day become mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Nicole Banks, San Francisco, a place where everyone belongs, no matter your race, your gender, your income, your sexual orientation, or your immigration status. More than most places, we try to live the words of Maya Angelou, who said, "We can learn to see each other and see ourselves in each other, and recognize that human beings are more alike than we are unalike." We are one city where all lives matter, and a beacon to the world, too often torn apart by differences, whether on the streets of Ferguson or a newsroom in Paris. My fellow San Franciscans, the state of the city is strong, and the changes we're experiencing can make us stronger. With our strong economic foundation, we have a special opportunity to change this city for the better and to see that San Francisco is affordable for families and ensure that every San Franciscan shares in our city's rising prosperity. This is my mission, this is my passion, and this is our San Francisco. Thank you very much.